This is TLC Elementary School, a place where teachers can find high-quality documentary programs created to inform and delight students. Use TLC Elementary School to complement your classroom lessons and to give students an up-close look at the world and the people around them.
On this edition of TLC Elementary School, the natural world goes under the microscope in All About Plants. First, take an up-close look at the basic building blocks in plant cells. Next, you don't need a green thumb to study the needs of plants. Learn the challenges of plant reproduction. And find out how the oldest and largest living things on Earth, trees, are different from other plants. And watch for discussion questions before and after each segment. Segment 1. Plant cells. Before watching plant cells, think about this. Where are cells found? What do you think is inside a cell? Carpenters are remodeling the interior, building new walls, installing stairs, adding a heating and cooling system,
About 13 inches.
and fixing the siding. If one part of the house malfunctions, the whole house is affected.
All right, perfect.
A house is made up of many parts. Take a look inside, and you can see the many rooms. A house is a little bit like a cell, the basic building block of all living things. Each cell is like a room, and a living organism, from the smallest to the largest, represents the house. Just as a house has rooms, an organism has cells. From the simplest organism, such as these bacteria, to the most complex, such as this person. Cells are the basic units of life. We rely on our cells to perform key processes, taking in food, eliminating waste, moving, growing, and reproducing. These processes are essential to life. When cells are damaged or break down, the whole organism is affected. A cell is the smallest unit capable of carrying out these essential life processes. Cellular biology is the study of cells. The term cell was first used during the 1600s. Robert Hooke was looking at a piece of cork under a microscope, and he noticed that it was made of tiny compartments. He thought they looked like little rooms or cells. The name stuck. Single-celled organisms, such as this amoeba, function with just one cell. Multi-celled organisms, such as plants and animals, have millions, even billions of cells. The cells in our bodies are constantly dying, only to be replaced by new cells. Cell parts in plants and animals vary because they must perform different functions. This is a diagram of an animal cell. The boundary of the cell is the cell membrane. Like the walls of a house, the cell membrane gives the cell its shape. Both plant and animal cells have cell membranes. The cell membrane is like the gatekeeper for the cell. It controls what materials come into the cell, such as water and nutrients, and what materials go out, such as waste products. The jelly-like substance that fills the inside of a cell is cytoplasm. All of the cell's organelles, the parts that perform the main work of the cell, are located within the cytoplasm. The cell's control center is the nucleus. This is the brain of the cell. Not only does the nucleus contain all the instructions for the activities and operation of the cell, it also controls cell reproduction. Mitochondria are sometimes called the powerhouses of cells. These organelles convert the cell's food into energy. Plant cells are different from animal cells because they have a unique feature called a cell wall. The stiff cell wall enables plants to stand upright. It's made of a material called cellulose. Another feature unique to plant cells are chloroplasts. These organelles contain chlorophyll, the green substance that enables plants to complete photosynthesis. The word photosynthesis means putting together with light. Photosynthesis allows plants to make their own food. Animals, however, have to find their food before they can eat it. The chlorophyll in plants uses the energy from sunlight to combine carbon dioxide and water to make glucose, a type of sugar. This becomes the plant's food. Oxygen is given off during photosynthesis. One day, this house will provide shelter for a family. Each part of the house must be maintained to ensure proper functioning of the entire house. The cells in our bodies, in other animals, and in plants must also function properly to ensure good health. We may not always think about what's happening on the cellular level, but these functions are vital to life. As the basic building block to all life, whether single-celled or multi-celled, cells control and maintain all life functions. Now that you've seen plant cells, talk about this. What are the differences between plant and animal cells? Why do plant cells have a wall? Segment 2, the needs of plants. Before watching the needs of plants, think about this. What are some different kinds of plants? How do plants help animals? Deep in the woods, a tree stretches its roots across the ground. In a meadow, a flower opens its petals to take in sunlight. A Venus flytrap catches a beetle in its leaves. Plants may have lots of green leaves, or like this cactus, they may have long, spiky needles. Some plants, such as this giant sequoia tree, have thick trunks and grow to be very tall. Can you describe some other types of plants? Animals need plants to survive. Some monkeys swing from branch to munch on leaves. This animal dodges sharp needles with its tongue to get at the leaves of this tree. Do you know which animal this might be? That's right, only a giraffe could reach the leaves at the top of this tree. Some plants provide food and shelter. This caterpillar uses a leaf as a home. First, the caterpillar cuts out part of the leaf. Then it attaches a wet type of silk to the inside of the leaf. As the silk dries, the ends of the leaf stick together. The caterpillar cuts a tiny slit in the leaf and folds it shut to make a little tent. Do you know what happens next? The caterpillar can eat the plant safe inside its leaf home. It will not be seen or eaten by another creature. Did you eat fruits, vegetables, or bread today? If so, then you were eating parts of plants. Just like people, plants need food and water to grow strong and healthy. How do plants get food? Plants need water and sunlight. They use these ingredients to make their own food. Water falls to the ground as rain. Plants soak it up. With enough sunlight, the right amount of water, and enough space, plants will grow strong and healthy. Plants may look very different from one another, but most plants have some parts in common. There are 5 main parts of a flowering plant. Each part has a job. Let's start at the bottom and work up. Roots hold a plant in place. Roots also soak up water and nutrients from the soil. A plant's roots may stretch far underground. The stem pokes up out of the soil. The stem carries water and food from the roots to the rest of the plant. Stems also hold up the flower and leaves of a plant. When you look out across this forest, all you can see are the green leaves of trees. Leaves take in light from the sun. Leaves are another important part of a plant. This is where plants make their food. In the fall, the leaves on many trees change colors and then fall off. On other trees, the leaves are needle-shaped and never fall off. The most colorful part of a plant is the flower. Flowers attract people and insects. They are important for the plant too. This is where seeds are produced. A seed is where a new plant will come from. Wind, water, birds, or insects may carry seeds away to a new place where they can grow. Let's review what we know about plants. Each part of a plant does a different job that helps the whole plant stay healthy. Plants come in different shapes and sizes. Most plants have similar parts. The
5 parts of a flowering plant are the roots, the stem, leaves, flowers, and seeds.
Now that you've seen the needs of plants, talk about this. What do plants need to survive? What are the parts of a flowering plant? Segment 3, Plant Reproduction. Before watching plant reproduction, think about this. What do you know about how plants reproduce? What different types of plant seeds are you familiar with?
Early in its history, the Earth consisted of little more than land masses and the oceans in between. But that all changed when simple cells, the first living things, formed in ancient waters. Some of these early life forms could make their own food using sunlight. Over time, their descendants evolved into plants. Plants capture light energy from the sun and convert it to chemical energy through photosynthesis. This is possible because of chlorophyll, a chemical in their leaves and stems that captures the sun's energy. As botanist Warren Wagner explains, since the rest of us can't use the sun's energy directly, we eat plants to get the energy we need.
Plants are basic. They're the food for all the world. And I consider biology the study of plants and their parasites. And everything else is a parasite on plants. To eat them, we do. And if we don't eat the plants, we eat something that ate the plants.
We depend on plants and their ability to reproduce.
Plants require two special things. One is to reproduce themselves, to occupy space. And the other one is to change. You've got to change because there's changes in climate, changes in rainfall, changes because of volcanoes, changes because of new kinds of organisms. And in order to be in this melange of all these constantly changing things, you're going to have to change yourself.
Plants reproduce and change, but that's complicated because they remain in one place. Most are bound to the ground by roots. To spread from one place to another, they often send out spores and seeds. Sometimes the wind and water help out, carrying seeds, spores, and fruits to a suitable place. Animals and insects that feed on plants also serve as go-betweens. Pollen grains must travel from one plant to another, but the way they move varies widely. Many flowers come in shapes, colors, and fragrances that attract visitors and encourage pollination.
Oh, look, people. How do you like that marvelous plant? That's a Dutchman's pipe. Now, let me tell you how this works. This is a classic example of plants that have weird pollination mechanisms. See the color? That chocolate color attracts flies. And the flies go there and say, good God, that wonderful thing there looks like something to eat. Now, the only bad news is that they have hairs down here. These hairs are all pointing downward, and he can't get out. And he flies around madly in there, and he gets all covered with pollen. And then at a given moment, and only the flower knows when that is, the hairs all shrivel. And he flies out, all covered with pollen.
Once insects are covered in pollen, they carry it to other flowers, and the process is repeated. Mechanisms like these help ensure the survival of plants, and ultimately, the survival of other forms of life on Earth.
Now that you've seen plant reproduction, talk about this. How do insects and animals help plants reproduce? Why have plants developed different methods of reproduction? Segment 4. Trees. Before watching trees, think about this. Why are trees important to a forest ecosystem?
Trees are the oldest, largest, and tallest living things on Earth. They are powerful and enduring symbols of life. What makes trees different than other plants is their trunk. A single woody trunk rises above the ground and divides into a series of branches. Trees evolved because some plants needed trunks to support themselves and grow tall enough to reach the sun's light. Jerry Franklin studies old-growth forests dominated by coniferous trees. His years of research have changed our understanding of how trees work.
There's a big old Douglas fir tree here. This tree is about 6 feet in diameter, probably around 250 feet tall, and it's probably about 500 years old. A living tree like this provides a lot of different functions in the forest. It provides a home for a lot of different kinds of organisms. It's doing a lot of productivity, it's doing a lot of photosynthesis, so it's a source of energy for the ecosystem.
Like all plants, trees require sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to survive. With these ingredients, they make the food they need and provide the oxygen we all use to breathe. By removing carbon dioxide, they replenish the Earth's atmosphere and give us fresh air.
There isn't any ecosystem in the whole world that stores more carbon than our northwestern coniferous forest. They're just giant storehouses of the stuff in the trees, in the logs, in the forest floor, and down in the soil.
Leaves collect energy from the sun and use it to make sugars that get transported throughout the tree for nutrition. Like sponges, the roots soak up water that moves through the trunk into branches and leaves. Excess water is released through the leaves back into the air.
One of the interesting things about the big old tree is, of course, eventually it dies. And what we find is that a tree, when it dies in one of these ecosystems, probably has as many functions to fulfill in the dead form as it did in the live form.
Fallen logs decompose and gradually return their nutrients to the soil, allowing other plants to thrive. It's a long and productive cycle of life.
Now that you've seen trees, talk about this. What is the function of a tree's roots?